All right, let's get into it. Well, it's Friday again, John.
It is. It is Friday. Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Warfighter Tobacco Podcast. We are not even remotely close to live, but we are recording from the Warfighter Tobacco Studios in beautiful Shirts, Texas. And we have a couple guests today.
We do.
You want to introduce them?
I'll have you introduce yourselves. This is
Big G, Scott G. Warner from Redland Cigar Club, San Antonio, Texas. Beautiful state.
Yeah. So Scott, Redland Cigar Club. You're,
Yes,
you're one of the owners. You're based
Yes,
out of San Antonio here. We will deep dive into that. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
I'm Missy Brown, also from Redland Cigar.
All right. And so Scott's one of the owners. He doesn't really do anything, but you actually have a job title.
I mean,
Actually, she does something.
I said you don't do anything.
Right, I don't do shit.
I know she does.
Yep.
I have the privilege of helping coordinate events.
Nice. All right.
Actually, she's one of my employees too. She works there.
Yeah.
Yeah, she works part-time filling in for Dan or MJ too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
About 14 days a year.
More than that lately. Shit, to about the hours.
So Redland Cigar, I think you guys were the first shop to carry Warfighter tobacco in San Antonio.
Yes, we were.
I can't remember what year it was. You guys picked this up.
That was probably like
17 or 18?
Yeah, I think it was 17,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, real
Just
early
before
on.
you even moved down here.
Yeah, we were still based in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
'Cause I thought, this is badass, man. These guys come all over from Nebraska. You know, of course, I was probably one of your last shops to visit.
it was a long time ago.
Hey, pretty close because it's pretty far south.
Yeah.
I'm sure you came by way of Dallas, Austin, that way down. Right?
I don't know. I don't remember that trip. I think I must have drove to it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Dallas, it's
Yeah.
a big area.
But from Nebraska, I don't remember where my first stop was. It was a long time
It's
ago.
metropolitan, man.
Yeah.
Dallas, Fort Worth.
Yeah.
A lot of shops.
Yeah, I'm sure we stopped at a couple there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then we hit a couple in Houston, I remember, on that trip. Because I had a rep at the time that didn't work out too well. And so that was interesting. But yeah, you guys been carrying Warfighter forever.
First order was August of 2018.
2018. Okay.
August, huh? Okay. 2018.
Yep.
I thought it was 17 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
I can't remember anything. So
6
I had to
years?
look it up.
6 years?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Sure seems like longer, don't it?
Well, yeah.
Especially everything you've been through.
So, and both of you guys are veterans as well, right?
Yes.
So, Scott, what was your military background?
12 Charlie, combat engineer, sapper. Then reclassified after I blew out my knee to a 76 Golf, I think it was. Yeah, 76 Golf. Patient administrator
Nice.
in all the hospitals.
And that's Army for the
Army.
for the listeners.
Yep, all Army.
Yeah.
What years were you in?
From 79 to 88.
Okay.
I'm a Cold War veteran.
Yeah.
I was deep in. That was my preschool years. I was born. I was born in 79.
God damn.
When you got out, I was 6.
And you, John, when did you get in?
I joined in 2000. I got out in 05. Yeah.
Okay, and what grade were you in 79?
In 79, I wasn't even a thought.
Holy
Not even a
Christ,
spark
you're younger than
of
he
thought.
is.
When you got out, I was 6. Yeah.
And you weren't even around neither.
And you're also a veteran.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, what was your military background?
I was Army,
All right.
54 Bravo / 74 Delta, so Chemical Corps,
Oh, chemical. All right.
2000 to 2007.
Nice. So NBC.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you work on a Fox vehicle at all?
No, I was recon, but we didn't have the Fox vehicles. I think one of the detachments with my unit got the Fox vehicles, but that's not what we did.
So do you have any deployments under your belt or anything?
I was in Iraq from 2004 to 2005.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because the first time we really actually ever seen an NBC person was in Iraq, and we had a Fox vehicle with us for a while.
Oh, we had a company NBC guy, Sergeant Rab.
Yeah, but like,
But Sergeant Rab.
Yeah.
He also doubled as an armor. He helped out with supply.
yeah. But it's like to see legit NBC people
Yeah.
working as an NBC unit and not as an attachment, or like you have the single person that gets attached.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
unit has an NVC and CF.
Yeah.
So you have to have your mask maintenance
Right.
and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So, but we were a dedicated unit. It's actually a pretty high speed unit for a chemical company.
Believe it or not, I remember when it was still all male, right? And then they actually brought the females in, into the chemical corps.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was probably 84, 85. And I remember being out in the field like, holy shit, there's females out here. It was chemical
Yeah.
corps. Like, wow, there's girls out here, man. I said, shit, they're really doing this shit.
I was in an infantry unit, and I looked around in my platoon, and I saw girls all over the place sometimes.
Yeah.
Not really girls, but
No.
they acted like girls.
Yep,
sometimes.
they did.
Yeah. Well, have we told the NBC story on Warfighter podcast?
When we were at the airfield?
Yeah.
We're
We're going to tell it again because I
Yeah.
think she would appreciate this story. So if you're in a chemical environment, right? Like we all had we went an initial push. We were going in, we were wearing J-list, it sucked. We had our NBC masks and all that shit.
we weren't wearing the mask unless we had to.
Right.
But we had to wear the top and bottom.
Right.
It was hot.
Oh, my
Miserable.
God.
Well, we had some missile come in, and there was a bunch of white smoke and shit. We didn't know what it was, right? So they made us mask up.
Right.
Well, we all had the decon kits, right? You push the little things, and if they reacted, then you could tell what was in the air.
Right.
Well, we had been in combat for like 2 weeks already. So not one person in our company had a kit that wasn't broken.
Yeah, they all busted.
Wow.
They were all broken. So what is protocol to take your masks off?
If you don't have any other testing or kits or anything like that.
Oh, God, I'm old.
You pick the lowest valued person in the unit.
And you have them crack their mask.
Yep. And
And then
wait,
you monitor.
see.
But
Canary in the coal mine.
yeah.
Exactly.
But before this, you relieve him of his weapon, right?
Of course.
So we had we trained this. But I remember doing this in training thinking this is the one thing that we're training on that I will never
we'll
fucking
never
do
this.
in real life.
We'll never do
Right?
this.
So we're on this airfield. And people were freaking out. People were nervous because we thought it was chemicals, right? And the lieutenant, they have a meeting, right? So like, what do you do? Well, the lieutenant and I think the squad leader came up to this guy. And it's like, hey, the lieutenant's like, hey, let me see your weapon. Kid's like, okay, sir. And he just takes it and walks away, And then the squad leader's like, I need you to take your mask, break your mask, seal on your mask, And it was terrible at the time, right?
Because you see somebody wearing a mask, right? And it's like, even though the eye lenses are kind of clear,
Right.
it's still hard to see in.
Right.
You could see this kid's eyes were like this fucking big. They were giant. He's like, you want me to do what?
Private E2, let me have your weapon.
Yeah. And then he was the first one that had to take his mask off. And that's how we had to do it. But looking back on it, it's funny. But at the time, I don't think any of us were too happy.
That wasn't
to be in
really
that
funny
situation.
then.
I figured you'd sacrifice like a second lieutenant for that.
I would agree with
Right.
it. That would have.
That
we-
ain't
I
how
think-
that works.
But I think at the time we had a very expendable one, if I remember.
No, he wasn't even with us.
Oh, that was, yeah.
He was still on the boat. That's how shitty he was. We sent him over on the boat with all the supplies, so we didn't have to deal with him. For
Right,
3
right,
months.
right, right, right.
He was horrible.
Yep.
And then he was there for a month and a half. We got him fired.
Yeah.
Like, no, sorry, sir.
He missed the one time on the deployment he could have been useful.
Right. He really did.
Other than that, he was not.
Yeah. Oh shit. Anyway, so yeah, Redlands. Yeah, we've been. Redlands is a cool shop. You got kind of I remember the first time I walked in, and I think it's probably everybody's reaction, right? You walk in and you got a pretty good sized storefront.
But essentially, you walk into the humidor.
Yeah, into the humidor.
Yeah.
It's a pretty
Right.
good size.
Right, right,
It
right.
looks like a normal big humidor storefront. And And that looks like it's it, right?
Yeah, but from the outside, it looks like,
Yeah.
is there a cigar? Where's the cigar lounge?
Well, I didn't even know there was a lounge. When I
Right.
first walked in, I just assumed it was a store.
Yeah.
And then, you open this door and you go in and you have a
You go through the
huge lounge.
second door.
Yeah.
That's the selling point.
Yeah, and you have a huge lounge.
Of course.
It's pretty cool. You got a shuffleboard table or a shuffleboard
Shuffleboard table.
and
Yep.
dartboards.
Yep.
And, yeah,
Couple TVs,
you do
75-inch TVs.
a lot of good furniture.
Yeah, a lot of good
Yeah,
furniture.
yeah,
We don't.
your chairs are comfortable.
we replace our shit. Ain't no holes in our shit. You know, I know a lot of these places you walk into is like, holy shit. I mean, I go to, because I check any place out I go, right? When I travel. I do. I like to look and explore in different shops. And sometimes you find, especially like in humidors, you find some freaking gems in places, man, that they just do not have around here or even in this state. You go to some other state, whatever city, like, holy shit, you got these here?
Yeah.
If I only had these here in my place, they'd be sold tomorrow. Every bit of them.
But I think having comfortable furniture and activities, I think is something that is really good to have.
Plus, it's a low lighting. A lot of people are like, oh, I got to get my eyes adjusted a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've done a survey on that. Like, people like tend to hang out a little bit longer at the lounge
Yeah.
in low lighting.
Huh.
We didn't know that. We learned that. And we're like, okay, let's do 40-watt bulbs instead of 60. You know, that's the only difference. You know, whereas they're 40-watt bulbs and they're not 60-watt bulbs lighting up the whole place.
Yeah. And as events coordinator, what kind of events do you coordinate?
So mostly we do like our individual events with our different cigar brands. Like
Right.
we've done some events with you. I know we debuted the Victory. So except for the summer months, we average an event a month where we highlight a different brand. And Scott didn't mention this, but one thing that's really nice about Redland is that we focus on boutique brands.
Yeah.
And so it gives people a chance to meet a lot of times the person who developed a cigar. So you get to meet owners. Sometimes they'll bring a roller with them. So it's really intimate. And I know we talked about the furniture and, you know, the dartboards and TV, and that's great. But I think the best thing about Redland is our people. We attract just a crowd of really nice, you know, friendly people.
Yeah.
You don't walk in and feel awkward. You feel comfortable sitting down and anyone will chat. It's bring your own bottle. So if someone has a bottle of bourbon, they're always offering you a drink.
I know we're sharing bottles quite often when I go there. So.
Man.
There's a bourbon club that comes out occasionally.
Yeah, the bourbon
And
group comes out of our place now.
they'll just like unload like really nice bottles
man.
of bourbon.
Shit, you
it's just
can't
a
get
whole
your hands
coffee
on it.
table. Yeah.
Nuts.
And they're like, what would you like to try today? And it's like, I don't even know where to start.
Dude, let me tell you something. You got to pour like these kind of one-finger shots.
Yeah.
Or you'll be toasted by the end of the night. Holy crap. A lot of high-proof shit too, man.
Yeah.
Some of it.
Yeah.
But smooth.
I know you guys have a lot of a lot of the events that I go there. You guys always have some kind of a barbecue or something like. I know you do on the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we do
You
food.
Yeah,
we
you-
do food.
Yeah, and it's
We implemented the food thing years ago.
yeah.
And we thought that'd be a great thing. Actually, you know, that was more of Jonesy and Doc and them. They implemented that, the other owners, you know, at the beginning.
Right.
And they took off from there with that. And that was just our staple, you know. We always had some food. You know, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I implemented that at another cigar shop in Long Beach the same way.
Yeah.
With Albert. Albert has a shop there. It's Taylor Cigar Lounge in Long Beach.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, I said, Albert, how come you just bring food? Because I bring pizzas by once in a while, right?
Right.
And the guys are freaking digging it,
Yeah.
you know? And I had to get Albert's permission, of course, you know, each time.
Yeah.
You know, he's the owner, right? You got to get permission, bring food in, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I would always call Albert. Yeah, sure, man. Bring that same pizza you always bring, you know? I stopped at this Valentino's shop somewhere, you know, they did it right, all the meat. And, you know, I mean, when I signed up with these guys here, I thought, this is cool, dude. These people know what they're doing. You know, they're bringing food in,
Yeah.
especially for events, because it makes people happy. Well, next thing you know, everybody else is doing the damn thing too.
Yeah, your customers are bringing in food.
No. Well, yeah, our customers do. They do.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Morrell.
Yeah.
Morrell is a sergeant major veteran, Army veteran also.
Yeah.
He makes this bean.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh my God, dude.
So good.
Everybody raves on Morrell's beans. So every time we do a barbecue or something like that, or burgers or something, I say, Morrell, bring your beans. Not a problem, man. I got you.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's his grandma's recipe. Yeah, he uses, that's what he calls it. It's his grandma's recipe.
It's got the ground beef in there.
Yeah, it's really good, dude. It really is.
We got a good friend of ours, friend of the show, Rich Dirks. He's from Wisconsin. He lives in Laredo.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take those two accents and put them together, that's what Rich sounds like. He has a Wisconsin accent and a Laredo accent.
And
it's amazing.
And he speaks Spanish too, so you get a little bit of
a little Spanglish with a Wisconsin twist thrown in. It's
not really.
But you were talking about
That's
beans. So he created this recipe, and he calls them Gringo Borracho beans. And I have his recipe, and every time I make it, I change it. And every time he makes it, he changes it too. I mean, it's beans, but it's phenomenal. And I remember we were down at a hunt one weekend, and he threw it all together right in front of everybody, and everyone's like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, you putting that in beans? Like, bro, I don't know about this." He simmers them for hours and hours, and then we tried them, and I'm like, "Holy shit!" Like, this is the best beans I ever had. Not a family recipe, but yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we usually take some questions from past episodes, some of the listener questions. So
Okay.
we're going to do that now if Justin has any.
We do have some questions. The first one is from Solomon. He says, what do you recommend for an indoor smoking room? With the summer heat coming in, wanted to see he wanted some tips and pointers on setting up an indoor smoking room.
Well, John,
I know.
since you have one,
Yeah. So I would tell you there's a right way, and then there's the way that most people do it. The way that most people do it is they'll go get a rabbit air or some kind of air purification
which we have
machine.
right behind us.
We have them all over the place. And they get those, and then they go sit in their room, and they shut the door, and they smoke like there's no tomorrow. And then they don't understand why their room smells like smoke. I got these air purification things, and it's always hazy when I smoke in there, and the room always smells, and I never... You cannot scrub cigar smoke out of an environment, period. You can't do it. It doesn't matter if it's in a lounge, if it's a massive warehouse. Doesn't matter what you're in. If you're in an enclosed area, you cannot scrub that smoke out of the air.
Like 100%, you mean?
To get rid of the smell, to get rid of the smoke sitting in there, none of that. That's not how those machines work.
Right.
It isn't.
No.
So you have to have some sort of air filtration on top of an exchange of indoor and outdoor air.
Yeah.
So in my room, I have 2 rabbit airs, and it might be
half
350 square feet, not even 300 square feet. No, it's not even that big.
It's about half this size, right?
No, it's about the same size.
Okay,
as
about
this.
the same size as this room.
But it's not like each one of those rabbit airs should purify.
Right.
I think 700 square feet I think is what they advertise, or 1,100 square, something like that. Like, it's a good amount. I have 2 of them. You can't just have those.
Yeah.
Right. So I have those. I also have AC for my house. I have AC ducts ducked into that room.
Right.
And then I have dump fans that I put in the window.
Okay.
So the combination of all 3 of those, the first day that we used that room, we had like 12 people in there smoking.
Yeah.
And it was like, the smoke was like here.
Wow.
Because you can't do anything about that.
No.
When there's that many
That
people,
many people.
and then we're all chain smoking too. So it's not like we all smoked one and we're like, cool, that's it. Like, there's probably 50, 60 cigars smoked that night. And so I had everything all set up.
Mm-hmm.
So we got done smoking, and we all left. I shut the door. I left the fan in the windows. I left the air purifiers were on auto, so they just run and whenever they sense any impurities in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And it took probably a solid 24 hours to get the smell out of the room before I could open that door, walk back in there, and not smell like we smoked it.
Right.
And it has a carpet floor, which I was really worried about. But it still, even to this day, if we smoke in it, we just let the dump fan run overnight. And by the next morning,
The exchange of air is the key.
that is absolute key.
Getting clean air in.
And getting the bad air out.
Yeah.
Yep. So my AC vent's up high. My dump is down low. So it creates this little flow. I actually pulled everything away from the door to allow a little gap in the door, so it'll pull air from the rest of the house too, on top of the AC vent that's in there. But the only time I actually use that room is when it's like 100 degrees or freezing.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm outside. I don't care.
Have you ever used one of those ionizer units?
It doesn't matter. It really nothing gets rid of that smell in the air. You just have to.
I think what you're saying is instantly. Like you can get rid of that smell, but not like
An ionizer will work.
but not in,
no, they do
not in real time.
Like the rabbit ears have ionizing filters that are in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
but not in real time.
No.
When you guys are
The
smoking.
only other way that you can do it is they make these machines that essentially suck all the oxygen out of the room. Clearly, you can't be in there when that happens. But that will do it almost immediately. But it's not a practical application.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But if you're looking for a room in your house, back to the guy who asked the question, that's hard because I sold my house recently, and
You didn't even smoke in it.
I did not smoke in my house. I smoked on the patio.
Yeah.
But I went through probably, a couple of different showings, and a couple of realtors were telling me that it smelled like smoke, and I didn't realize that it did. Yeah.
But another thing that could be from, and I didn't think about this until recently, is when I mean, obviously we're around cigar smoke every day, all day, no matter what. Doesn't matter if we're here, we're driving, we're at somebody else's shop, something, right? And you guys have probably experienced this as well, where when you get home at night, everything reeks, right?
Yes.
And so if you stored something that smelled like smoke, clothing or something like that, or even a hat,
Right.
we're so used to that smell, but a non-smoker will walk in and be like, wait,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that could be a reason why that's still hung out for a while.
Non-smoker with a good nose.
Well, especially with Scott's house, because I was just like, he's never smoked. It's not like he's like, he got drunk one night and he's like, oh, fuck it, I'm smoking a cigar.
The most I'll do is if I got home,
you walk through.
I would walk straight through to the back patio with a cigar, but I wouldn't smoke on it walking.
Yeah, and that's not gonna.
So, yeah.
Nah.
No.
But I ended up buying one of those machines, right? And it really worked good. I bought a couple like Ozium and that kind of stuff, and
Ozium works great in a vehicle.
it does. Like like rental vehicles, you're not supposed to smoke in. Ozium's the key. You get a what's it called? The cloth. What are they called? The
microfiber.
Microfiber cloth and Ozium. Yeah, every rental I go in. Sorry.
Sorry, everyone.
Oh well.
But yeah, if you want to build a smoking room in your house, it ultimately depends on what your level of acceptability is for smoke and smell.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I know guys that
Or the person that's living with you.
Yeah. I know guys that they just smoke in their house.
Yeah.
Period. Like I used to, when I smoked cigarettes way back in the day, I lived in an apartment in Arizona and I smoked in there the whole time I lived there.
Yeah.
And when I moved out, I never got hit with a smoking charge, which is fucking weird.
Yeah.
But like now looking back, I remember I took all my stuff out of that apartment. I put it in storage and I moved. And a couple years later, I moved back and I got all my stuff out of storage and I opened that door and I was like, oh my God. Like it just smells like an ashtray.
Yeah.
But at the time when I was living there, I'm like, I didn't notice. Nobody ever complained, you know? But yeah, it's bad.
Well, and you taught me something too. You always throw your cigar butts out of your
Out the window and not in the truck.
Yeah.
Yep. Because this is what smells. The ash itself, like the burnt part, that doesn't smell.
Yeah.
It's the little bit of tobacco that you
Yes.
just leave sitting in the ashtray.
Yes.
That's what reeks, especially in a vehicle. It gets rough. And this Texas heat, man.
Well, once you get to the end of your cigar, there's a lot of tar that is
Right.
and that's where the persistence in the rooms is.
Yeah.
Whether it's cigar, obviously you're going to generate more, and it's just a very sticky molecule. The lady that lived in my house before I bought it, she was, you could tell, an indoor chain smoker.
Oh yeah.
Not
and
cigars.
everything had that tint to it, right?
Right. Well, they covered it but it was like they flipped the house, and so they used the wrong paint like on the trim and stuff, and it kind of separated, and you can tell
Right.
the paint underneath it is like nicotine color. I just can't explain it any other way, But that's my thing is I have my room is my smoking room, and I have little.
Our old shop off 3009 had exposed spray and foam insulation. And when they sprayed it in, it was this like brightish yellow. Yeah. And by the time we moved out, it was like brown.
Dude.
Yeah. And you could like cut like a little piece away and you could see the original color of it. And
Right.
I don't know how much of that does it naturally versus just because we smoked in there.
I think a lot of it had to do with smoke.
Well, that smoke stuck to that kind of stuff. That's what it was.
But yeah, so if you're going to build one in your house, I personally would highly recommend doing some sort of air exchange unit, whether it's its own specific one for that room. Like I know a lot of guys that they'll put a mini split in a room and then dump fans.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, put your dump fan in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Smoke
As high as
rises.
you can,
It's way easier that way.
Something else too, furniture. Okay.
Yeah, leather.
No, leather only.
Mm-hmm.
Do leather. Okay. Remember that. Leather.
Multiple reasons.
If
One,
you-
it doesn't burn.
Right. And for two, it doesn't absorb smoke.
Yeah.
You're able to wipe it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If you got like a cloth type furniture, nah. That stuff is going to smell like an ashtray after 1 year.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Justin, what's the next question?
Alrighty. The next question comes from, I'm not making this up, Flapjacks McGee.
Oh, Flapjacks McGee.
Love it.
It's a great cover name. Can you have too many Bovida packs in a humidor?
As long as they're the same percentage, no.
Yeah.
If they're multiple different ones, they're all going to fight each other.
Depends on the
I don't think them fighting each other would hurt the cigars though.
I think it depends on the size of the humidor too.
Yeah, but if it's a two-way humidification pack, so
Yeah, it's only going to
it's gonna
get so
it-
humid.
It's gonna
Right.
stop at
Yep.
69 or 72.
Right.
Yep.
I don't think you can have too much.
No.
I think the more you have, the quicker it'll get there.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So one thing that I've started doing, because I've noticed that certain brands might have a moister cigar than I'm looking for. I will take a dried out Bovida pack because it is two way. So
Yeah,
if your charged Bovida packs have absorbed, there's a limit to how much moisture they can absorb. So to prevent, it's just kind of like an insurance.
Oh, I see.
So that if there's excess moisture, that dried up one, it's not going to pull out of the other Bovida packs because it's the same relative humidity.
It's almost like
But if
dry
you get-
boxing,
Right.
but with help.
So if
So
you, right.
you put one good one, one bad one in?
No, just
Well,
a
I
bad.
put the right number of good ones in for the number of cigars
Right.
in that unit, and then one or two dried out ones just to make sure that
Huh. That's
Yeah.
that
logical.
the
I think.
mainline company
Right.
that will remain unnamed cigars don't create a problem.
Yeah, no, that makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
It's
Because
funny.
it is funny because we see dried out Bovida packs all the time.
Yeah.
And if we'll leave them on the shelf in our humidor,
They eventually
become
they're back
normal
to
again.
Yep.
Yeah, so
But it's funny about dry or over humidified cigars, because for the most part, there's no humidors in Nicaragua. You know what I mean? It's not like they have this huge, massive warehouse that's humidified. It's just their environment that they have down there. So some days are more humid.
some of them
days
some of
less.
them are humidified, but
Some do in their aging rooms.
yeah, in the aging rooms.
But from the time they pull them out of the aging room and they go through the packaging process, they get boxed up, they get palletized, they get brought down to Managua, they get shipped to wherever their import port is in the United States.
Yeah.
And then by the time they get to whatever warehouse, who knows what happened? You know what I mean? Like they're not in humidity, temperature controlled environments
No.
for that entire travel.
No.
So it just depends on how they get stored after that.
That and humid. So in the aging room, they keep the humidity perfect.
Yep.
That's a big thing. But then you take, say you take a box of cigars out of the aging room and you ship them, right? They're all perfect cigars at that point. They're going to keep each other the right moisture. like eventually, I would imagine like the outside cigars in the box might be a little bit drier from shipping. But for the most part, if there's enough humidity in there already, they're going to act like their own Boveda pack and keep each other, they're going to suck the moisture off of each other. And I don't think, so they last a little while in shipping.
That's the reason why I like LFD a lot. They ship with Boveda in each box.
we should
Warfighter.
everything we have has Boveda in it.
You guys do. LFD does.
There's more and more companies doing it lately.
Yes.
They really are. And I think it's great.
Because I can remember years ago, you never found a Boveda pack.
Never.
In any.
And it was almost blasphemy. Like, you're going to do what? It's like, this is, why not?
Do you guys know why they were invented? The original purpose for Boveda packs?
Nope.
It was for fine instruments. So the wood, like in a fine guitar,
That
or
makes sense.
violin. Yeah. And then they just found other
I
applications.
think he did tell me that.
Yeah. Now that I think of it.
Now that you said that.
I thought it was something directly to do with cigars. That's just like, no, I have no idea.
It's funny to me that people get offended by them because, I guess there's an argument. Like, I guess if that membrane becomes compromised, it's a different salt for the different relative humidities in the Boveda packs.
Right.
So I guess you could risk that. But I'm like, really? You think propylene glycol and floral foam was superior? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's other brands, right? You have Boost and you have Boveda, and I think there's a couple other brands too.
Yeah.
And if you talk to them, they all
say that theirs is better than the other.
They all have valid points of why they think theirs is better.
Yeah.
I think they all probably work just fine. But
Isn't it like a fiber, like a natural?
No, that's a
What is that
different
one?
one.
yeah, I don't know what
Boost is still like a,
it's still a liquid.
well, yeah, if you want to call it that. I don't know. I have no idea what they put on the inside of them.
Yeah. I'm not
But the one that you're talking about is, who is that? It looked like they had these little like white wafers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of that brand. But yeah, there was those guys too. I have no idea how that worked.
Yeah.
Because at least the ones that are like squishy, you're like, I can, like, okay, they're squishy, so it lets the whatever's squishy out through the pack and it helps humidify. The stuff that's just the paper, and I'm like, I don't get this.
So back to the question. If it's a two-way humidification pack, I don't think you can use too many. Now, if it's just a water type of humidification thing in your humidor, you can do too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if it's two-way pack, it's fine.
Yep.
Otherwise, if it just releases humidity, you can do too much. So,
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Let me see here. So I think on one of the last ones, you guys talked about how you had that trip to Jamaica, and Nicholas is having another trip to Jamaica himself.
I'm sorry.
He wants to know if there's any places you should check out, or maybe a specific cigar.
Nope.
You should look for.
We had fun where we went cliff jumping. That was a cool place to check out.
Oh, that bar. Yeah.
Well, it had swimming pools and cliffs, and
Here, I'll let you know the name of that in a second.
It was kinda
but
cool.
we also did find a couple shops that had humidors,
and it was all
trash.
Yeah.
Overpriced trash.
I've been here. And I've heard that before about Jamaica.
Yeah. Do not buy, especially if they say they're Cubans. They're not.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, I've heard the same exact stories.
Rick's Cafe.
Yeah, Rick's Cafe was fun.
Yep, Rick's Cafe. It's in Negril, pretty much like the west side of Jamaica.
And the girls went and did an excursion with like zip lining or something. They said they had a pretty good time.
Yeah, but they have I think they have 3 different size cliffs you can jump off of, and you have to work your way. You start the small one, then you hit the medium one, then they let you jump off the big one. Then they also do a show where this guy climbs up on a telephone pole that's angled out, and it's shady as shit. And he does a high dive off of that, and but the bar itself is pretty cool.
Yeah.
They have a little like a pool.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, we had a good time there.
Had a pool bar and everything.
No, just the pool. You had to get out to get the drinks. Yeah.
Well, they brought
I like
us
the pool
drinks.
bar.
Yeah, they had waitresses.
I
And
was
stuff.
like a pool bar because you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nothing worse than sitting there for several hours drinking.
And realized nobody went to the bathroom.
Wait, no. Yeah, that too. It's like, yeah. Like we got a lot of kids in this pool tonight.
A lot of kids. You got
grown-up
you have
kids.
18 adults that have been
I
sitting
know.
there drinking for 6 hours.
That's what I'm talking about. We got a lot of kids in this pool today. Anyway, no, what's worse than that is getting out weightless
Oh fuck!
after you're buzzed.
Yeah.
I went and floated the river. I went and floated the river yesterday.
Uh-huh.
When I stood up from that tube, I was shit faced. I was fine until I stood up.
You thought you were.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
I just, you know what every time I think about that, what the pool bar thing,
Yeah.
the adults, because they're just sitting at that bar just pissing at them.
It's like, it's not my pool.
Hey, first of all, yeah, it's not my pool. Second of all,
No, then again, there were times when we lived in Nebraska, Scott had a pool. And there were some times in the summertime where we sat in that pool for like 10 hours and nobody got out.
Yeah. I think I'm more justified if it is my pool.
hey, thank God there's a lot of chemicals in this pool.
Yeah, your own pool is properly chlorinated.
Right. Let me get a bottle.
Yeah.
Throw a little shock in
Eagle.
there. You're good to
Right?
go.
Yep. Justin, is that the last one? Or we got
That
any
was
more?
that was
That's
the
it,
last
Justin?
question. That's it.
Any questions from you, Justin?
So back to Jamaica real quick. Outside of that place, outside of Rick's,
Yeah.
is there anything else you'd recommend?
I don't know.
So what'd you go there for?
We were there for a wedding.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
gotcha.
went to a sandals. The sandals was all right, but
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of it.
If you're gonna scuba dive there, there's no fish.
What?
There's none. It's they don't control anything literally on that island. Like there's quote unquote regulation, but they don't actually enforce
So it's just
shit.
carte blanche on
So
fish.
it's so overfished. There aren't even like reef fish left.
Wow.
Like it was cool, but I can dive anywhere and see the ocean floor. You
Dude,
know what I mean? Like
You can still go to Hanami Bay.
yeah, like
You're in Hawaii, right on Oahu.
I think
You see fish.
we dove every day we were down there, and I think I saw one turtle, and a handful of fish. Nothing serious. Like, yeah, it was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I bet.
But
There were some scary parts of Jamaica.
yeah, there were some parts that we
we-
probably shouldn't have drove through.
But we were in a van full of huge, massive dudes.
Yeah,
So we were fine. But
but yeah, there were
and-
police checkpoints. And,
the food was great though. Like off the resort.
Police checkpoints are at night.
no, they usually 24/7 because
Oh,
they
they do?
really bad gang activity at the time.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. And nobody there wants you to be there. That's the shittiest part about the island. All the locals,
Americans to be there.
they don't want you to be there.
That's how they make
They
their
don't.
living.
They
off
think
tourism.
they think
But
you
they-
are a fucking piece of shit,
Yeah, they don't like you.
and they don't like you at all. They will try to screw you over however you can. And it's like, if we don't come here, you don't have an economy.
Yeah, you don't live.
There, you don't have you have nothing.
Yeah.
Like cool, whatever.
Because
Like,
I tell you what, when I took my trip to Costa Rica, man,
I love Costa Rica.
open arms.
Yeah.
yeah.
Everybody there's with
Yeah.
open arms.
Costa Rica's
Americans.
Like
Great.
if I got offered a free flight, free trip, everything, all expenses paid to go to Jamaica, no, I'm all set. Thanks. So it's a waste of my time. I'd rather pay to go somewhere else.
Wow.
Like, nope, sorry. Yeah.
It's unfortunate. But
My sister and brother-in-law went there a while back, and my brother-in-law got roofied. And so
Yeah.
I've decided that it's just not on the bucket list.
Like it's, yeah. I don't want to go into all the details, but they try to screw you at every point. Nobody's honest. There's 2 tiers of everything. If you're a tourist or if you're not local, you get one set of products. If you're local, then you have a different set with different pricing and different
Yeah.
Nope, all set. Thanks. Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Let's dive
yeah.
right
shit,
in.
We got a big one.
Dive right into the Supreme Court's overturning of the Chevron Deference, which is huge, and not just for the cigar industry. It is
Well,
huge across the
I don't
board.
think people would even realize that it's even good for the cigar industry.
It's good for every
Yeah,
industry.
it will be. I think.
It's amazing. It's the Supreme Court loosely saying that the government has been overreaching, and you need to tone it the fuck down.
Well, I think they more mean that government agencies such as the FBI, the ATF, the FDA, are making laws, and they're not allowed to make laws. Congress has to make laws.
Well, the key points for the Chevron difference that they brought up was there was two ways to classify whether a federal agency was appropriately, I don't know, regulating something.
Okay.
And it was one, if it fell directly under the law that was passed by Congress, or two, it had to be deemed reasonable. They had to create a reasonable interpretation of what Congress decided. But who determines if it's reasonable or not?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it let each individual agency determine this, not a judge. And that's not how this country's set up.
Right.
Right? You don't get a government agency to tell you yes or no. Everything gets challenged by courts. But because of the Chevron difference that was from 1984, it left it in the hands of all these government entities. Then over the years, I think there's been tens of thousands of lawsuits and decisions that were made.
I didn't realize that the date of that was 1984 because
There's a great book from 1984 too.
well, but I was thinking there was a huge law that affected a lot of people that came out in 1986. And it was the ban of suppressors and machine guns.
Those are the Hughes Amendment, right?
Yeah.
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 Which
If the ATF can't regulate, we'll see. I bet it gets challenged.
I hope so, man.
But it's the same thing with like these bump stocks and all this kind of stuff that has gotten overturned.
Yeah,
because it's the agency trying to create law,
and they don't have the they don't have the legal capacity to do it.
right?
Yep.
So, but how does this relate to the cigar industry? Well, the FDA is trying to classify and regulate cigars, and I think the whole reasonable thing is the key here because the FDA has done the studies, and cigars are not, they're not marketed to children. They're not bad for your health, and there's all these studies. So to say it's unreasonably trying to regulate cigars, I think that is where it's really going to help the cigar industry with this ruling.
So if Congress passes a law and then it's ambiguous, like until this Chevron was, I guess repealed, is that the right word? It's like they cut a corner. Like instead of it going to like the judiciary to evaluate the ambiguity,
Right.
and like perhaps use the regulating agency as like subject matter experts, but then a judge determining whether, clarifying. the
Well,
law.
I think they weren't. Congress wasn't making the law. These agencies were creating laws under the guise of regulation.
Right.
I think that was the problem.
Yeah.
And they just cut out the judicial system
Yeah.
for determining what was allowable and what wasn't.
Right.
So
But this night shift, man, damn good.
That's good.
I freaking like it.
Well, I know you're wearing the hat.
I know. Well, somebody, I know a guy.
Right. It is a good cigar, and I appreciate it.
It is a great cigar. I like it. Thank you.
Anything else on this?
I mean, we could go. This is a huge rabbit hole that we could go down. Because essentially, now you have to look at everything that was put in place by an agency, and you have to look at it to see if it aligned with congressional intent when Congress passed whatever bill it was
Right.
that pertains to whatever regulations were created by the agencies.
Especially if something was created that wasn't that didn't fall, that was like outside the scope of law, right? Like you have our amendments and stuff, right? Like if they create a regulation that goes against a right that we have.
Well, that's always been in place. Essentially that's why the easiest thing to refer that to is a lot of the firearms cases that have been brought up to higher level courts.
Yeah.
And a lot of it reverts back to the Second Amendment rights,
Right.
an interpretation of the Second Amendment in regards to whatever that bill or law or amendment was.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it's you look at the First Amendment when it comes down to social media. There's been a whole bunch of lawsuits lately, or not even lately, in the past 10 years since social media has gained a lot of traction that are congressional level, or not congressional level, constitutional level arguments,
Right.
where it's not just like, well, I don't like it, or this state, blah blah blah. It's like, no, like you're violating something that's been in place for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And so then they have to go back and determine definitions, interpretations, and intent, which this is purely based off of congressional intent, which is awesome.
Right.
Because now if Congress tries to pass something, it still can get challenged. And it can get brought up to the Supreme Court level, which is a lot of these rulings coming back down are things that have been in that case where they might pass it, but then somebody's going to sue saying, hey, this violates everything. And then it finally gets to a high enough court where the court's like, you know what? You're right. You can't do this.
Yeah.
Our country says you can't do this,
Yeah.
So why I said this is a very deep rabbit hole is because now it goes down the angle of, okay, so this agency is now trying to regulate X, right? Because of this law or bill or amendment that was passed by Congress. What was the intent of that?
Right.
That Congress had when they passed it. And then now they're not only are they going to look at whatever, alphabet agency level bullshit they did, now they're going to go back and look at what congressional law and determine the intent of it. And then they relook at all that. And then it could be like, oh, wait, it says right here, and that's a violation of this. You know what I mean? So it opens up this huge can of worms of we can really go down the rabbit hole now on government overreach based on this one simple decision that like people are like, oh, okay. Well, yeah. Okay. So certain agencies can't really regulate anymore. It's like, oh, no, this is big. This is really big.
And when the agencies were making the decisions, like constituents of our Congress people, like, what do? Like, you can't really complain.
Yeah.
Like,
well, there's nothing because they open up a comment period and they're supposed to evaluate the comments, pro and con, for whatever they're proposing. And they don't call them laws, they call them rulings, which is hilarious because they're not a judge.
Yeah.
You're not a court of law. How can you create a ruling? You're an agency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be, I'm very, very, very interested to see how this plays out in the next coming years.
Well, hopefully it makes government a little smaller. That's
yeah. Well, the best part is, so when you look back at all the cigar industry stuff that got essentially the cigar industry won, where the judge ruled in favor of us instead of the FDA, that had nothing to do with Chevron.
Yeah.
is that the one that kind of is? I know recently there was a decision made, and I don't know who made the decision, where now a lot of companies, because it was hard to introduce a new blend, and so now a lot of companies are phasing out existing blends because it's been made so much easier for them to innovate and put new products on the market.
Yeah, all that went away. I think it originated. They tried to lump, because most of the time cigars fall under any other tobacco. When you read the law, that it's and in any other tobacco is also vape and that kind of stuff. They were trying to regulate vape. Well, so they tried to regulate cigars the same way.
Yeah, they lumped them together.
Yeah.
That was the
but
problem.
that started in 2016.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the cigar industry finally got a definition of a cigar, which is a premium hand rolled cigar weighing so much and no added flavors.
But it's interesting though, right? So the FDA started that shit with the cigar industry in 2016, but Congress passed the law, the Family Smoking Prevention something in 2009. So it took the FDA 7 years to be hey, we're going to regulate you now.
No, but when did vaping become a thing? It had to happen somewhere in there.
So vaping started getting kind of big in like 2010 to 2012.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it wasn't what you see today. Back then, it was these big, huge contraptions.
Right.
And everyone sold their own juice and they all mixed
Right,
their own
right,
stuff
right,
together,
right,
and it was
right.
completely unregulated.
Right.
But they were using it as like, hey, this is healthy for you.
Yeah.
You should do this instead of smoking cigarettes.
And then
And so now, like, this is that kind of gray area. Should the FDA, should the government be able to tell its citizens what's healthy and not healthy for them?
Yes.
But how? That's the hardest thing to figure out.
But I should know if I should have the ability to know that if whatever I choose to do is unhealthy or not, or healthy.
Yeah.
Right. I should still have that fucking choice as an adult.
Right. But
make that choice.
in order for
even
them,
if I know it's unhealthy.
in order for them to regulate it,
Yeah.
well, how does that process, right? Because like the perfect example, seatbelts.
Yeah.
Okay. When were vehicles created?
Right.
The early 1900s,
Yeah.
late 1800s.
Yeah.
You know, when they were created, not mass production. Just that, like, hey, there's 4 wheels and an engine.
The Model T was like
Do-do-do-do.
1923. So
Yeah, but even before
and that's
that,
mass production.
they had,
Yeah.
you know, there's somebody
And
built the
steam engine
vehicle
before
somewhere,
that.
you know.
Yeah.
And but the seatbelt law, I don't think that went into effect into the 50s.
84.
It was later.
Yeah.
No, when did they require
Required
manufacturers to put seatbelts in vehicles?
Yeah, that's probably around the 50s.
I think.
Yeah, 40s.
At least in the
50s.
front seat. Because I remember
Justin, he's asking when manufacturers had to install seatbelts,
Gotcha.
not when they were required.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
use
yeah.
them.
God.
Because in it, so once they required manufacturers to put seatbelts in, then it still took a while for them to mandate that, okay, it is by law, you have to wear a seatbelt.
I'd say it was 40s.
Right. I don't know. I can't remember. I want to say it's 50s or 60s. That
Mhm.
makes a little bit more sense.
I'm seeing 1966.
1966. Okay. That makes more sense. So 66.
Safety standards.
So you gotta think-
when did they start to put them in vehicles?
Well, I'm sure vehicles started putting them in before then.
right.
Well, so right there, it's a Congress approves, right? Because it has to be a congressional law.
Right.
It can't just be like, hey, we want you to do this now. Because if I was Ford and they're like, we want you to add all these costs to your vehicles, there's no law that says I have to, but I'm all set, thanks.
Yeah.
But you make a law, okay, now I have to follow this.
Yeah.
You know?
Just
So
like California made a law. You know what their law was? With
Yeah.
cigarettes? Menthols are no longer sold.
Yeah.
that's actually a federal law that was part of that 2009
Right.
thing.
But California made it a state law before,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
even though
But
the
the-
federal one never got
They also did, what is it? The prop. I can't remember
With
where you have to put
the
warning labels
cancer.
on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
51,
Like
probably
if you breathe
51.
air in California, you're going to get
Now
cancer.
you realize that they're trying to lump cigars that have flavor
Mhm.
into that stuff now.
Yep.
You know why? Because the definition of a premium cigar excluded flavored cigars. And it was kind of one of those things where you kind of had to,
Yeah.
Right.
and that's why they're still
Yeah.
fighting that because,
Yes.
But everyone that lives in California that would have fought that moved out. You know what I mean?
So back to the
Oh, to this.
the vape thing and the question about like should the government be able to regulate, and you said yes. So I guess they called them rigs. I've never vaped because it scares me. But when those first came out, the nicotine concentrate that people would put in that was so
was insane.
highly concentrated that it would like cause you physical harm if it got on your skin.
oh yeah.
And yeah, like it was like it would
Wow.
yeah, because nicotine is toxic
Yeah.
at certain levels.
Yeah.
For me, it's kind of like there should be transparency.
Yeah.
Like you should be educated. They shouldn't be able to hide
Yeah.
the harms that can come from
Yeah.
a product
Yeah.
so that you'll buy it and harm yourself without being able to make an educated, informed decision.
That's what created warning labels.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, so
Cigarettes.
that falls exactly into what
And
we're
now
talking
cigars.
about, though, because in when cigarettes got heavily regulated, they essentially skirted a whole bunch of stuff that they did publicly by paying into a fund the government has. And so it allowed them to not get sued. It allowed them to not have to actually publish what's in their cigars or cigarettes, excuse me. All of this stuff. And so what you were saying is, so like vaping, for instance, if there was a standardized way to figure out what you're putting into your body and they listed it, right? It would make you an informed consumer. It would give you more information to make a decision if you wanted to do that or not. That is essentially what the FDA was trying to do, but they weren't doing it for the public's eyes. They were doing it for the government's eyes. And one of the rules that they put in 2016 was standardized testing for everything. Like in the cigar industry, it didn't matter if we had 6 sizes of the same cigar. Every size had to go through this testing, and it would have cost upwards of $350,000 per individual unit.
Yeah. On a new blend.
Yeah.
They grandfathered some stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But they were trying to push this through.
For new ones.
You
And
know,
they're trying to do the same.
And then
vape
they're asking ingredients.
Yeah.
So when you say tobacco,
That's it.
like,
Yep. Sun, soil,
yeah.
water, a little bit of love.
So where we kind of got into, like, with the tobacco industry in general, kind of got into trouble, right, is when cigarette companies knew the harms that cigarettes could cause, and they misrepresented that to the public.
I don't think
Right?
cigars.
That was
Cigarettes, not
probably
cigars.
that was probably about 30 years before the government the FDA tried to do anything with cigars.
Right.
That was in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yep.
Is
About
when-
mid 80s, they
Yep.
started putting the damn warning labels.
But that's like
what
like
foot in the door.
well, you
Start
got
that
to remember, like
regulation.
NASCAR used to have a Winston Cup.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't do it anymore, and that's
No.
because all those lawsuits
Right.
and all that the
Yeah.
big tobacco
And,
fight with the government.
and big tobacco didn't mind the warning labels. You know why?
People didn't
They-
care.
It took them out of the courts.
No, it's because they didn't. Well, that they didn't care because they didn't have to change their ingredients.
Right. And it took
So
them
the
out of the
same
courts.
addictive properties, additives that they added into cigarettes, they didn't have to remove them.
It took them out of the courts for any lawsuits.
Exactly. So
They're letting you know these are harmful to you.
Yep.
You chose to.
Yeah.
But
Just
you might die if you keep doing this, but I already got you hooked.
yeah.
Right.
But I do want to point out though, when the cigar industry was under the scrutiny of, hey, we might have to put warning labels on cigars, right? There were big corporations in the cigar industry that said, okay, government, we'll put these warning labels on. They did it.
Still do it.
They still do it. Not because it makes sense, not because it's true.
No.
Not because they were just kowtowing to the goddamn government.
Those
And I think that's fucking.
those are the companies that when they rent a hotel room, they get the one that has a cuck chair.
I'm just saying.
I thought it was called a queening chair.
Tomato.
Yeah. Wrong podcast. So I had a conversation at the lounge the other day about where, like, from even a libertarian standpoint, people's rights, like, and freedoms end where they infringe on other people's safety. And like you're talking about, like, they used to, and I'm sure they still do, concentrate nicotine, like, from the parts of the tobacco they weren't using to roll into cigarettes, and then spray the tobacco to increase the nicotine content. But do you guys remember, have you ever seen in the old, like, ads that they used to run where they would act like cigarettes were good
Yeah.
for you? For
Oh, yeah.
certain things,
They used to
you
have-
know?
They would publish
Like,
ads.
They
saying
used
that
to
they
have
were
doctors like sign off on it.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
Dr. So-and-so, and
Yeah.
I smoke whatever.
smoking. Yep.
So yeah, those are funny. Those old ads like that are pretty.
There was
There-
a lot of ads.
There
back
were
in the
ads
50s.
when cigarettes first started having filters.
Yes.
These ads are amazing. I saw one maybe a couple months ago now. I don't even know. My life's been crazy lately. But they were adding asbestos into cigarettes.
No.
And you lit it on fire and smoked it. And they were saying it was healthy for you because it filtered out the carcinogens.
Because the asbestos was in the filter, right?
It was, yeah. And then now we know that asbestos, that's really bad. And now you're lighting it on fire and breathing it in? Yeah, that's so healthy for
Might
you.
as
Yeah.
well do the printing in lead paint while we're at it.
They probably did.
Every movie made it sexy. You were smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. If you want to smoke cigarettes, everybody in the world knows
To
it's not
each
healthy.
their own.
But yeah,
More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Yep.
Without the filters.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, some of these old cigarette advertisements are just,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and then you had cigarette companies went down, to the marketing to children, right? You had Joe Camel.
Yep.
You had a bunch of like stuff that was appealing to kids, and so as a cigar brand owner, like we're gonna do our job to never market to
Let
children.
me tell you something. Camel and Lucky Strike made tons, trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. On marketing. They
Yeah.
did. Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, because the younger they get them hooked, the longer they're going to be a
Right.
smoker, you know?
my parents were them.
Yeah.
Yep, they were those kids.
I remember,
That's what killed my
you
mother.
guys remember Marlboro miles?
Uh-huh.
You save the UPC and it's I think it's 5 miles per pack or
Yes.
10 miles
Yeah,
a pack. I think it's 5.
I remember those.
And then the two things that everybody wanted was the Marlboro jacket,
Yep.
which was like something
10,000,
stupid.
yeah.
No, it was like, I think it was almost 100,000 miles.
Power smoking those damn
I know,
cigarettes,
right?
man,
You,
just to get
you
the
see
damn-
people walking around, they pick up a pack, and I'm like, shit, somebody already got it.
That's true. So freaking true, dude.
Yep.
There was recently
The smooth taste expected mothers crave. Nico Time cigarettes. It's a pregnant chick smoking a cigarette.
Oh my God.
that's back when Valium was Mother's Little Helper and
Right.
and vodka.
Well, then again, about that
Together
same
at the
time,
same time.
if they would release articles in newspapers about like how to make your wife happy, and one of the things, and I'll never forget this, one of the things that they put is if you want to make a woman happy, give her a slice of cheese. And it's like, what?
I mean, that's valid. A nice Gouda,
Oh,
Gruyere,
you can't go wrong with a good Gouda.
a Brie.
You
you
remember basic cigarettes
Yeah.
and all of their Marlboro Mile things, like your basic whatever.
Yep.
I loved that marketing. Like, oh, your basic pool stick or your basic, you get all these, basic whatevers. But
I think
anyway.
I'm gonna leave that one alone, gentlemen. I already know what I'm thinking.
Yep. But no, it'll be interesting to see how the Chevron stuff plays out.
Yeah, I think it'll help.
Yeah.
It's going to help with deregulation across
Yes,
the board.
absolutely.
It really is.
It will.
And I don't like, right? Like live and live, right? Live and let live. I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
You should know that if you do something, it's dangerous for you,
Right.
and you choose to do it. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
But to regulate and tell people they can't do stuff,
Not even give them the chance.
Not
or
even give them the
opportunity- or
choice.
the choice.
Yeah, we live in America, land of the free,
Yeah.
right? Like, deregulate the shit out of this government
Yeah.
and make it the land
But
of the free again.
So how do you make that line though? Like that's always the question that I go back to. And
If I'm
like, and I'm not saying it as in like there's a right or because I don't think there's a right answer.
even
to it.
seatbelts, right? Everybody agrees you should wear your seatbelt. But if I'm driving and some asshole's not wearing his seatbelt, if he's not in my car, I don't give a fuck.
Unless you get in an accident with him, and whether it's your fault or his fault, if he dies, it's involuntary manslaughter on your end. You know what I mean? And it's because of all these laws over the course of time that have been set up, and that involuntary manslaughter, it's involuntary. You didn't try to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously, like if you have a good enough lawyer, depending on the circumstances,
Right.
but I'm just using that as an example. But like one of the things that's kind of semi-recent that I don't know if this would, the Chevron would follow into it or not, but is doctor-assisted suicide, medical-assisted suicides, right? There's some places in the world that as long as you go through this screening and everything and they give you the okay, they'll schedule you a date, come in, I fucking see you. You know what I mean?
I'm okay with it.
But how do you
Your
regulate
choice.
it? How do you regulate it? Because
Yeah.
essentially,
Oh,
by
shit.
law in this country, that's murder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really is. Like, it's not like you're going for a medical procedure and things went wrong. Like, no, you wanted to die. Do you know what? Like,
Yeah.
but you're now
I mean,
employing somebody.
as long as you sign all the paperwork and cross all the T's and dot the I's.
But you're employing somebody else to do it.
Yeah, but
That's where the
for me,
Gray area.
it boils down to somebody else's feelings. I don't give a shit. My freedoms trump your feelings.
I agree.
Your feelings trump my feelings every fucking time in my book. That's where I'm at. That's just where I'm at.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my personal view, right? Like,
But as a governing body, how do you decide? Okay, yes, we're going to regulate this, or no, we don't have. It's not our job to regulate.
yeah, I don't know.
That's the hardest thing that I think to figure out.
Well, but
like
dangerous side of that is for everything they regulate, they create a new agency, a new group of whatever,
right?
And it never goes away.
Yeah, it's always add to, never take away.
It's never take away.
Yep.
It's always add to. So, so if we can see a takeaway, like that's, I'm good.
Like get rid of the ATF.
Yeah,
it'd be great.
Yeah,
and then put all the stuff the FDA regulates about tobacco back into the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Right.
And then get rid of that.
Yeah.
See? Two birds, one stone.
I think there's like a need for like personal responsibility and peer pressure within industries to hold people accountable.
I agree
know
with
a
that.
couple years ago, it was recent. There was a cigar company that had some cigar bands that looked like they could be targeting younger smokers.
Yeah.
We do live in a capitalist society where marketing is everything.
Right.
And
But I think they caught some flack.
the
over
industry absolutely said, hey, we as a society
Yeah.
decided that this is not okay. Y'all need to cut that shit out. Because if you don't, then they're going to come down on us as an industry as a whole and make everyone's life harder. Like you don't get to market knowing that you're marketing to a specific group to try to make more profits at the expense of the industry being more heavily regulated.
Now I wouldn't say we're guilty of it because we've never done a production cigar, but we did a small batch cigar and we called them offensive crayons, right? And they looked like crayon. There was a torpedo cigar and it had a full wrapper like Crayola crayon would have. Then we came up with some really interesting names for them. Right. They were of extremely small batch release for one specific shop, for one specific event. And they were sold literally for 4 hours. That was it.
Yeah.
And we have people nonstop. How come you don't put these in production? How come you don't do them the whole time? And we get the joke, right?
Marines deserve.
I remember
things,
those.
too.
See?
Yeah.
Marines.
You showed me those.
You get the crayon joke with Marines or Warfighter tobacco.
I think what he's getting at is we wouldn't feel comfortable releasing this as a
there's no way.
release,
There's
right?
no way.
Yeah.
Because like you were saying about the entire industry being like, hey, you're being an asshole right now.
Yeah.
We already made the decision that if we were to ever put that into an actual production cigar, that we can't do it. It would. There's that old saying that all publicity, bad publicity is still publicity.
I have a quick story to end this. So marketing to children, right? It's Halloween. I'm set up outside of my house and I'm giving away candy, but to all the dads or to moms or dads or whoever wants, I had cigars. I had the candy bowl up here. I had the cigars right next to me on the table. This 5-year-old, 6-year-old girl comes running up. She comes up, I give her a candy bar. And she's like, oh, cigars. Grabs one and runs. I'm like, what in the fuck? I'm like, this is like, how does this happen? This 5 or 6-year-old girl. Well, 2 seconds later, she goes around the corner. 2 seconds later, her dad walks by and she's like, my dad loves cigars. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I'm trying to do I tackle her so I don't get in trouble from my parents? Like, I don't know what to do now, And I'm just like,
imagine what you felt like when that dad came around the corner.
well, thank God he likes cigars.
Yeah, that's shit.
Because if I just gave a cigar, if he thought I gave a cigar to his daughter, like, holy shit,
Yeah,
But yeah.
We're all trying to convince people that no one's giving their kids free drugs for Halloween candy, and here's
I know. Scott's like, you get a cigar. You get a cigar.
Does your dad smoke cigars? Here you go.
But she was so happy she could give her dad a cigar. She thought it was the best thing ever. I'm just like, oh
God.
I'm like,
That's hilarious.
Like she
bro.
took that. I did not give it to her.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for being on.
No, thank you for the invite, bro.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So
It's always fun here.
I got coffee. I'll cheers.
I got a little bit here.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you guys for coming out.
Absolutely.
And Scott, where can they find you guys? Social media, website? What do you got?
We're at 12, what's the address? 885 Redland Road,
8 Suite
Suite 210.
Justin will put it up in the thing.
124-881.
Yeah, we're just like, I even,
What's you guys' social media? Facebook?
yeah, Facebook.
What is
yeah,
it? Just
Instagram.
Redland Cigar Club?
Yeah, Redland Cigar Club. Yep.
Okay, cool.
You'll find us.
And then the
Yep, there
website,
it is.
redlandcigarclub.com.
There you go.
That'll have
There
all
it
the
is, man.
information.
There's the lounge. Look at the lounge, man. Fucking
Yeah.
badass, ain't it?
Look at that guy with the shoes off.
Shoes are off. My God, we got that picture up.
On the table.
On the table. Feet on the table.
Next time I see
But
him, I'm gonna be
no, it's cool.
That's hilarious.
They got shuffleboard. They
There's
do,
a group.
yeah, they do a shitload of stuff with
Cigars
Cigars
for
for Warriors.
Yep.
Really, really decent club.
Yep.
And good selection.
We support a lot of clubs. We support Gold Leaf Cigar Club. We support Distinguished Ruffians. Yeah, you know,
Yep.
you know Distinguished
Yep.
Ruffians. Yeah, they go out. They've met you up at out west here, haven't they?
we've met him a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. They've
Up
been-
in Waco too, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
But
They're
no,
great
good.
guys, man. They really are. All those clubs are.
Yep.
Well, cool.
Yep.
Let's
Well, you
wrap it
guys, thanks for coming out. And for all you listeners, we will see you guys
Next week.
next week.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Scott.
Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, happy 4th. Celebrate it.
Right?